We're going to get back into it, and our first presentation of the afternoon is cross-domain infrastructure for creating and maintaining WADM annotations against IIIF resources, and that'll be presented by Daniel Granville and Myriadne Wang.
Thank you. Am I on? Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dan Granville. I'm technical lead at Data Futures. If you haven't heard of us, we're a not-for-profit based in Germany. We do a lot of work with repositories and especially IIIF, opening and preserving both knowledge and cultural heritage. And my colleague here, Myriadne, she's a PhD candidate, and in just a few minutes she'll talk to you about how she's using these annotation tools as part of her research. Before I talk to you about annotation, I'd like to talk about WADM and/or Zenodo for reasons that will become apparent. But really, I'm here today to talk about Annostore, repository annotation service, which requires that sort of length of title to get yourself a decent slot at a conference. So you can read that, but I only have 15 minutes. I'll go through a couple of example workflows, show you the kind of things people are achieving with it very briefly, and Myriadne will go into a bit more detail about her PhD research using annotation. So for the next couple of slides, I'm just going to put on my Invinio RDM community member hat. They don't issue actual hats, unfortunately. But if you haven't heard of it, yeah, you probably should have for reasons I'll explain. It's a free and open source repository software platform. It supports FAIR principles and hopefully of interest to this group of people because it is IIIF enabled. It powers a large number of research repositories running today, including Zenodo, but it's not only for use at sort of Zenodo scale, it works very well, very effectively for sort of smaller repositories for a single corpus, a single department, a single project. So if you're looking for a repository, do check it out. As I said, it supports IIIF out of the box. Both for the kind of boring stuff we sometimes forget to give credit, so simple IIIF preview and thumbnail generation, but it's also usable for sort of a base for your images to do all these sort of interoperable things with IIIF. All images are available as IIIF resources, and the system automatically generates a basic manifest for any record containing images, so it's very easy to use. It has a native IIIF service out of the box, but you can connect it to existing services, Cantaloupe, IIP, that sort of stuff. So it will integrate with existing IIIF. What do I think the advantages are? Well, you have easy drag and drop upload. So for people who just have some images, they feel need preserving, and they want to use IIIF, it's a great solution. Once they're published, they become persistent with a persistent identifier, and Zenodo and RDM have strong versioning capabilities, so you can properly manage any versioning that happens to your images. And because it's a general repository and not merely an image service, you can associate rich structured metadata with your images. It's exactly data site in shape, but with custom fields you can add as much domain specific information as you want. And again, because it's a general repository, you can deposit multiple file types, so as well as your images and your annotations, you can include supporting documentation, supporting code, anything else you want to kind of preserve with that, all within a IIIF enabled record or container. This is just showing the image preview happening. This is a basic sort of thumbnail preview. I'll show a Myriadne in a minute. I might just need to ask the people in the front row to verify that down here at the bottom left, just to prove to you we are genuinely using IIIF. We've got a IIIF here. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see. I didn't know how far back that would show when I show the screen. So IIIF kind of doing the important stuff under the bonnet that sometimes we don't remember to give enough credit for, I think. Can also do things like thumbnails by simple customization, again IIIF powering really nice stuff. Okay, so that's Zenodo, and if you want to ask me any questions about Invinio RDM, the software that runs Zenodo, and you can run yourself, please reach out. I'm happy to talk about that as well as Annostore. Repository annotation service. It provides an external workspace for annotations in progress. Repositories are not generally places where we work on stuff. They're places where we deposit stuff. So you can use it to annotate any IIIF source. It's integrated with Zenodo, and therefore is Invinio RDM compatible. That's as a source of images, a source of annotation, but also as a destination to publish your annotations when you get to a sort of complete, or at least publishable state. It can support multiple annotation instruments and repositories, and again, this word, I'm pleased to hear this word coming up so much today. We obey the FAIR principles. The data is fully open and available to anyone to do what you want with. We encourage all users to identify with ORCID to ensure that their annotation contributions are correctly and unambiguously attributed. And I don't think I've got a screenshot of it, but we also encourage people to credit their institution with an ROR as well. So we try and use it to generate as rich metadata as we can. So I'll show you a couple of screenshots in a minute just to see what is going on. But hopefully it supports the kind of things you would expect in an annotation service. You can annotate any IIIF resource. We can import existing annotations. And sometimes we even take bespoke annotations and convert them to WADM. You can create and edit annotations. We mostly use Mirador, big fans. Other instruments are compatible. I'll talk about curation in a minute. And as I said, you can publish them. You're free to download your WADM to get it anywhere you like. But ultimately, we hope to be integrated with your repository you want to use. So with a one-click, your annotation gets preserved in a repository. Here's an example of something Myriadne is working on. You can see it's a relatively customized instance of Mirador. So we have sort of controlled vocabularies that are useful for comparing data between sets, and we have multiple bodies as well. So we refer to that as one instrument, one instance of Mirador, and we can produce many customized ones of those, and they produce very rich, structured annotations. Here's the data in Zenodo, been pushed over, and you can see the Zenodo, the Anastor integration here. So if this is your record and you need to make a change to those annotations, you can go over to Anastor, make any changes you want, and publish them back. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of instances of this in use. I think I've been told to use the title IIIF alumni. Neil Jeffreys used this as part of his module, one of his modules for his MSc in Digital Scholarship at Oxford. And when we're using Anastor in a kind of a workshop mode, whether it's for students or sort of crowdsourcing, we can configure it to kind of lead people through a series of steps to make sure they understand how to engage and get started with annotation. So here's a user who's done some annotation, and now they're ready to send it for curation. So while their annotations are their property and their intellectual and real property, if they want to submit it to a repository, then obviously there's probably some checking, some curating of that to make sure they've done a nice job. And the curator can either accept stuff and the data will end up in a repository, or they can send it back for further additions, corrections, whatever they deem necessary. And that's just one of the nice examples. That's a very heavy annotated document that came out of one of Neil's workshops. Little diagram so you see where the data's going on here. So IIIF sources, mostly they were Bodleian manifests, but we did use some other IIIF sources. They all appear in Anastor. People are allocated particular manifests to work on, or they pick their own, I think. And then once the annotation is done, potentially multiple annotations on all different canvases and manifests are all pushed to Zenodo as discrete records. So the person who created that has a Zenodo record in their name with their ORCID showing their annotation contribution, and they can view that on the context of the manifest. We can also explore as WADM, as I've said. To go to a slightly more knowledge than cultural heritage end of the spectrum, and we did some work with Plazi. They are an organisation that does a lot of data mining of biodiversity literature with the aim of exposing that data for research purposes. So this is sort of the elements of the record as it appears in Zenodo before Anastor gets it, and it's a very complete record, but we can use Anastor and annotation to enrich this. So it goes over to Anastor, and the person does some annotation, and just take particular note, we've identified here a taxonomic name, which is quite an important scientific bit of data, I'm told. I'm not a taxonomist. But when this data comes into Zenodo via publishing, the integration allows it to enrich the metadata record. So straight away you've probably spotted the annotations are now in the repository. They're not only presented in the repository, but they are preserved in the repository. So the annotation effort is protected. The person that did the work, Felipe in this case, he is credited for doing it with his ORCID, so he can say, I've done this. But perhaps most interesting to me anyway, that taxonomic term we identified, that's a very special class of annotation because that identifies a really critical piece of metadata. So we don't want to leave that as WADM because it's not as exposed as it could be. So Anastor recognises that that's a scientifically and significant thing for research. So the biodiversity term, the species, that term is now in the record metadata. And from there it can be harvested by other systems such as GBIF. If you don't know what GBIF is, just insert any system that might harvest things you work on. More data flow here. So Treatment Bank is Plazi's source of data. They deposit the basic record I showed you into Zenodo. and then we enrich it, and the data is then made available to GBIF or any other sources via OAI PLH harvesting, possibly more advanced stuff, I don't know how they do it. And the variety of tasks we have here, OCR correction, because they provide us with OCR as bespoke annotation, identifying of locations, taxonomic terms. Often we can pull out orchids or other information of authors to help sort of increase the knowledge graph and the metadata of the record. We're doing for time. We've got another project going on, but I will. There's some links to that in the slide at the end, so I'm going to pass it to Myriadne at this point. And she will talk a bit about her research.
Thank you, Dan. I'm now taking over to briefly share about my experience with Anastore. Especially centers on applying the IIIF and WADM infrastructure to the humanities with a focus on Zoroastrian manuscripts. So my own research focuses on Avestan, an old Indo-Iranian language dated back to mid-2nd millennium BCE. As the canonical language of Zoroastrianism, Avestan survives solely in handwritten manuscripts. This fragile textual witness, they actually lie in the center, at the heart of the repositories we've been developing. So as part of the open repository strategy, we've built dedicated IIIF repositories for several key collections, including Kamal Institute in Mumbai, the Jamasbasa collection in Ancient India and Iran Trust in Cambridge, and the repository of the notebook of the scholar E.W. West at the Royal Asiatic Society in London. So each of those evaluate RDM repositories, they support a customized annotation workflow tailored for the specific types of natures of different materials and research purposes. So focusing on Zoroastrian manuscripts, our infrastructure reimagines the traditional philological approach to the manuscripts. With a plug-in annotation service, scholars transcribe the text directly from our IIIF service. These transcriptions, stored as WADM compliant standoff annotations, carry clear authorship, so they could be discoverable, identifiable, and citable. As seen in this previous slide, with the British Library's Arundel 55, the repository includes the IIIF manifest together with the metadata. You can view the paragraph annotations with visual stanza markers together with the transcription of the Avestan original. On the right-hand side, you'll see the persistent identifier together with the JSON you could download. In this environment, multiple transcriptions of the same text, they could be collated together to support the textual criticism approach and also the publishing of the digital edition. But beyond transcription, our annotation workflow also supports the fine-grained research inquiries, whether it has to do with the documentation of the paleographic features, or the variant readings, or even the scribal corrections done onto those manuscripts. And each of them could, as a standalone annotation, they could be published independently on Zenodo. So here is an example of my work on a bilingual text, Avestan Pahlavi Hebedistan. It is a Zoroastrian treatise preserved in two main recensions, the Indian manuscript tradition TD and Iranian manuscript TD and Indian HJ. So one outcome of this research is the published Zenodo record you see here on the screen that investigates specific textual issues by drawing all 3 different sources I work on and citing specific annotation IDs from them. From this Zenodo record, if you click on the open with Anastore here, it will actually take you to the IIIF Mirador viewer with all 3 manuscripts aligned. So on the top right corner, you see the manuscript J104 from the mentioned Jamas Basar collection, and the bottom right is a manuscript called Zen 53 from the Bayerische Staatsbibliothek in Munich, from their IIIF resource. And on the left-hand side is the Notebook 9 from the WAS repository. So all 3 manuscripts, which is actually a copy of the Munich one you see on the bottom right. What is particularly interesting is that with this viewer, you're able to compare those 3 manuscripts from ultimately on the same text, and they display my annotations on the same textual section. For instance, the one highlighted with the yellow hair. So what this means is that each annotation carries a stable identifier, enabling precise cross-reference and also citation in this scholarly publication. And this repository also supports authentication via ORCID for the editing purpose. So it ensures attribution and also access control and editorial integrity. This model encourages collaborations, collaborative enrichment. Scholars can build on existing source-linked annotation rather than starting from scratch. And this ensures that the findings remain transparent, reproducible, and open to the scholarly dialogue. So with that, I'll now hand it back to Dan for some concluding remarks on our projects.
Great. Just one last slide from me. It's really a thank you for listening. If you'd like to know more about anything I've talked about, please feel free to catch myself or Myriadne. We are sticking around. There's some links to some of the stuff I've shown. The best thing to probably do is to pop that DOI into Zenodo. There's some direct links there. I also realised that more than 10 years that I've been involved with IIIF. That was my first conference as well in Ghent. So I want to say a thank you to the community, whether you're championing or you're creating the standards. They power these workflows, and that's a really powerful thing. And I've shown you a lot of screenshots from WADM, a lot of screenshots from Mirador, so a special thanks to the people involved in creating those tools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have self-managed heritage, giving citizens the tools to build their own curations, and that will be presented by Guillaume Levrier, Louise-Anne Charles, and Jean-Phillippe Moreux. Who's speaking first? Are you speaking in order?
Well,
Here's what I mean.
manage.
Who's speaking the most?
I am.
Put this on,
Oh, okay.
and then we'll switch this. One of you can take the other one, and I'll give a mic.
Yeah, just check.
Yeah, you're done.
Oh, this works. Okay, I'll just try to do maybe over there. All right. Hi, everyone. So, quick outline of the presentation. I will give first a little introduction, then Jean-Philippe will present the tool Gallica Rama. Then I will present another tool called Anaverse. Then Louise-Anne will talk about this little workshop experiment that we've been doing, and you're invited to the workshop that we will be giving on Thursday, so please register if you haven't already. And then with the remaining time, I will present a little challenge that we built in order to gauge the interest towards those tools that we've been making. Attention versus agency versus sovereignty. So ever increasing trends. We have the internet is ever more present. Screens as well, and it's a challenge for everyone because, as you know, there are a few armed conflicts going on right now. It's just one example among others, but what you might have noticed, and as a political scientist, it's part of the things that I study. Those populations that are opposing one another usually question the legitimacy of the other side, of being in that territory at that moment. And the way they do that is that they use narratives that they take from partial or very opinionated historiography, and they build the narratives that they then share using the means that they have. Sometimes it's really grassroots, so social media, for example. And that's part of how the opinion, the political opinions on conflicts is built, and that's how, as a country, you generate the willingness to fight or not. And so in the same way that we have citizen science, I believe, as a political scientist, that it's important to have a little bit of an opportunity to enable people to do citizen historiography and look further into what comes into the crafting of the narrative of what history is. And that usually lies into not only having access to the artifacts in the widest possible way, but also being able to build narratives based on those artifacts. Another fact that I found interesting and a little bit of a paradox is that people that really care about museums and archives and libraries do not judge their online presence very well. They usually find that that's not something that I ran, it's something by the Avant Arte group that they did a report last year. They published it a few months ago, and apparently people that really care about the online presence, collectors, philanthropists of those large cultural institutions, they do not judge the presence very well. So we are in this context where people do think that having direct access to online artifacts is important, but at the same time the digital presence of institutions is not very well established, or isn't judged as very well established, which is why we've been building those tools and trying to see to what extent using such tools we can empower citizens to kind of take up the narrative crafting agency and do something with them.
So we started to dig, or to try to dig a little bit into this idea of letting our end users curate their own collection, our heritage collection, around 2017. Thanks to a European project funded, we started to co-develop with our friends here in UK, COGAP, a first iteration of such a tool, such feature. It's called Stories. It's still a working feature. And the feedback from our librarians, digital curators, were quite good. So we decided to embed such feature directly into Gallica, which is the main digital library from at the BNF. So it's a full integration. It's an in-house development. The stories are stored as IIIF manifest, version 3. End user can store these stories on their local disk or as a service from the BNF. So we are able to share this IIIF manifest. And they can also choose between an image presentation in IIIF style or a video output. To my opinion, the main drawback is we are only supporting resources from Gallica digital libraries. This is just an example of what kind of embedding we realize. It's quite easy for end users to shift from Gallica to the story creator. Nevertheless, if we are looking to the audience, to our logs, first side it's quite good because during the last year, for this March to March period, we received almost 7,000 visitors it's more than 1 day of audience on our main site, Gallica. But if we dig into the audience production, we can see there are only around 40 people use the video mode, which is total failure. And StreetBref mode can be quite good because we are storing right now around 800 last figure 800 GL projects. But if we are looking at the real production, at concrete achievements from our end users, most of them are only testing the product, the feature. Most of the stories are only leveraging 1 slide to 2 to 3 slides, which means the tool is not known, it's not very visible, and we probably fail to communicate about this particular feature.
But still an initiative to give agency on the narrative, but it does show that it's hard to just put a tool out there and have people use it in a convincing way. I will present a slightly different tool called the Aniverse. I'll try to run it as a live demo. If it doesn't work, it's the demo effect. I need to escape this and then probably do something like that. Yay, all right. So you can connect on this NAAVER.SE. It's called the Aniverse. It's a 3D web app on which you can load IIIF manifests and they will show up in the world. So it works a little bit like a video game. You have a little panel that explains you what to do when you pop it in. And so you have the gallery menu. When you push the G key, that opens up different options. One of them is the IIIF little tab right here. And if you paste a manifest in the import manifest right here, it will enable you to download an image. Select the image that you want in the manifest if it has more than one. Crop a specific portion of the image and then hang it in the world. And if it's a completely public room, anyone in the room will see you do it. So it can be truly collaborative and anyone can enjoy and participate in adding those features. And so you will see that right here. So those ones are from the BNF gallery. This is from the Getty Museum. This one right here is from, I think, UCLA online library. This is Internet Archive. So basically anything that has a working manifest presentation API and a image API will be enabled on the Aniverse. So this is the second tool that we've been using and developing, and Louise-Anne will present one initiative on this.
Regarding Aniverse, we organized 4 training sessions at the National Library of France, 2 in April, 2 in October. The goal was for participants to create a gallery by the end of the session, choosing the space and the documents within it. We did not do a formal presentation of the tool. We structured the session into different models, and they learned every action possible step by step by being active and by helping each other. And at the end, we visited each other's gallery to highlight the social aspect of the app. The sessions were organized by the BNF Data Lab, which is a service that supports researchers working on the digital collections of the BNF, such as Gallica, particularly in the field of digital humanities. Consequently, we offer different kinds of research support, and we also have a space within the library, and we regularly hold events from workshops to hackathons. And we're also a place for experimentation within the BNF. Consequently, the public was similar to the one the BNF Data Lab usually attracts. So not the general public, not the BNF public, not even the Gallica public, but really the professionals, such as BNF colleagues, other librarians, archivists, researchers, research support staff, and we even had a few students at the last session. So it's largely due to how we communicated about the event. So it's important to note that it is part of their work already to showcase collections, BNF collections or other ones. And they were all really interested in the Anaverse. However, for some people it was quite difficult to understand the Anaverse, to navigate within it, or to understand what 3D could add compared to a slideshow. And on the other hand, other participants could navigate quite easily, learn how to move quite easily as well. That's okay. But by the end, all of them were able to create a gallery. Overall, we can say it was a positive experience for them. Some participants were really interested in using the Anaverse in their professional lives. However, for the moment, none of them have done it. So there still might be a gap between doing the training session and applying it in the professional life.
Yep. So from that, we know that Gallica-Rama is online and people can find it, but they don't use it to the fullest extent, at least not in the display of agency that we would like to see. And the problem we have with the Anaverse is that when we have a qualified audience that already has a strong interest in being able to display their collections, they use it. But if they don't have that, they don't. So this is a little bit a problem that we had, and we tried to solve it by building a little challenge. So the idea behind this challenge was to send, using the Gallica newsletter, a mail to potentially interested people, so not the average citizen, but the citizens that are registered within this newsletter of the National Library, and to give them the opportunity to navigate those interactive galleries, 4 of them being on the Anaverse and 4 of them being on Gallica-Rama, having to guess what guided the curation that we present in there. And those are galleries that we built. But we built those using pre-selections made by an AI system that is still not in production but in development at the BNF. So trying to have people guess what is the common vector, what is the common term that made made the AI classify group those images together. And there was a little form below this iframe for people to give the answers. And we also gave them the opportunity to build their own galleries with those tools and to submit those as JSON files within the form. And so part of that was a success, and the second part of that, the JSON part of that, was a complete failure because no one submitted anything. So what did we learn? So we learned that people don't like JSON, but most of all, we also learned that people do not click not read discovery thoroughly on their emails. So out of a bit less than 30,000 emails, 509 people opened the challenge page. Knowing that within that email there were 3 main sections that you could open. So only 500 people did click. However, we only have data, unfortunately, on the Anaverse side. The Gallica-Rama data is not out yet. But we know that pretty much all of them did open at least once one of the galleries and made at least one visit. So 2/3 of them made only one visit, 1/3 had more than one visit. And we also know that they tried to play the game to some extent. So only 10% of visitors only spent 10 seconds or less. And more, like most people, did try to see how it worked, but probably they didn't feel legitimate to go much further than that. Or they had maybe navigation problems. Since we don't have, they didn't really write feedback within the form that we gave to them, we don't know what walls they hit while they were trying to navigate either actually application. Another thing that was interesting is that apparently participants really focused on the first gallery, sometimes staying a long time and coming back to it, which might indicate that if they're stuck and trying to make sense of what is going on in the first gallery and not going to the second one, it means that probably they hit some technical or skill-based walls that prevented them from inquiring further. So it kind of loops back to the issue that we had, that is we're good at packaging a workshop that explains to people what to do and how to do it in terms of navigation and creation. But when we leave people with those tools, even though if we provide tutorials, both textual and videos, it doesn't really catch up. But then again, this is not the general population. This is the population that subscribed to the BNF Gallica newsletter. So it's also a bias that we need to put in. So at the end of the day, no custom gallery submissions, so we need to really work on that and try to break that one. Which does make us think that really it's not a capacity that spawns naturally in the internet jungle, but it's something that grows in a garden. So it's something that we need to find a way to feed by different means. Probably that just putting a document out there, a web page out there with short video snapshots is not enough for the audience that we think or de facto seems interested in this. But there is still a willingness. Like, we have a feeling that there is a spark, that people do want to engage and they don't directly close because it's 3D, so it's not for them. So there is an interest. We are trying to find out how to build on that interest and provide guidance on this. And so if you have ideas, we are really interested in you communicating those ideas to us. We are on the IIIF Slack on the Anniversary channel. You can learn more about the BNF Data Lab on the BNF website. And once again, if you want to learn more, I can leave that here, but if you want to learn more, we have the workshop coming on Thursday afternoon, and you're all welcome to learn how to use and navigate those tools. Thank you so much.
While we're getting set up, I just want to make a note that if you didn't select Birds with Feather workshops on Thursday and something has piqued your interest and you would like to go, for the most part, you are free to just show up. The only thing that are closed off at this point are the paid tours. So up next is the backbone of knowledge, the critical role of reliable IIIF implementations, presented by Leander.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction. The conference committee allowed me to bore you with some aspects of IIIF you probably heard already, but in my opinion, those aspects are really important and critical for the future of the framework, so I chose to emphasize these things this year in my talk. Some of you may know me as head of digital services at Leipzig University Library. That's not my role today. Today I'm here as a freelance consultant and developer in my spare time, so to say. I was involved in a couple of IIIF related projects in the past years, for instance the Detektiv IIIF browser extension, or the Handschriften portal, which is a project I work on in my role at the Leipzig University Library, and I will also talk about this project too today because it has it brings up some interesting aspects of the things I want to talk today. You all know these kind of schemes which display the basic promise of interoperability, the main feature, as I think, of IIIF to open up the existing silos, make them interoperable, and most important in a way which is aligned with the basics of linked data. And this means, as most of you for sure already know, on the principle that the targeted resources are not copied or moved to another place, but they are just referenced by URIs, by identifiers, and this makes it complicated. This results in a networked world, in a network setup, where institutions and applications rely on the services of others. Let me give a short introduction on the project Handschriftenportal. This project collects the metadata from all the manuscripts in Germany in a big metadata store in Berlin, but it does not move all the images of those manuscripts to Berlin too, but it integrates them via IIIF, which is obviously the way to go today. As for now, it is a search engine with an embedded Mirador free viewer, which makes it possible to show the images of the manuscripts, but also makes it possible to read the catalog scans, the catalog texts, and so on. But now, in the future, we are going to enhance the functionality and introduce annotations. So users will be able to log into the system, create their own collections, create personal annotations, create annotations to share with other users of the Handschriftenportal, publish annotations, and publish them in a permanent way, so they should be citable in the future. And this makes it, in this moment, it is very important, it is crucial that the resources which are annotated do not change anymore in the future. So why would they change? Because infrastructure must be renewed from time to time, data must be reprocessed, people want to enhance their data formats, want to enrich data, and so on. And this is not pure theory. I experienced such effects in the past in practice. For instance, when I worked with StrollView, this is a storytelling application we developed with the University of Göttingen. We had stories about certain things, about researchers, about animals, and from one day to another, the library chose to reprocess all their images, and the story was completely broken. We had totally random images in our story, in our presentation, and then we had to replace and find out where the new identifiers are and where they, how to change and basically manually manipulate the story files to work again. So this is not a theory, this really happens in the real world. And this is why the identifiers must not change in the future. This is, I think, the basic principle of linked data. So for providers of infrastructure, of data, it is really important to keep the IDs stable, keep track of which IDs have been assigned to which image files in the past, and keep track of the relations between logical and physical images and canvases and all those things. As for the Handschriftenportal, several ideas came up, like doing some sort of fingerprint checks or store small thumbnails of the annotated regions in order to keep track of, have they changed, how plausible is it what the image server answers at a certain point in time, and yeah, but it's not decided yet if an if so, which kind of tracking technology could be implemented. There are other important aspects of IIIF which help to fulfill the promise of interoperability, and I would like to list them in a short second half of my talk. A very prominent example are the course headers. Most of you have heard of them, I'm sure. Different implementers handle them different too. For instance, some implementers require some certain action on a website before they send course headers. For instance, you have to have visited the website before or something, or you have to send a pre-flight HTTP request using the options method or something like this, which could make it hard for developers to really use the resource. The resource works if you use it as an end user with your web browser, but if you start to develop software which does not visit the website before, it may become hard to actually access these resources. And if the resources are available public domain or under a permissible Creative Commons license, it would be really great to just send asterisk course headers which permit everything. HTTPS everywhere is also a very common thing. I think today, I think most institutions do it today, so I can skip this thing right now. URIs should be identifiers. I think this is also today not too critical anymore. It basically means that what the ID field of your resource says should also be resolvable with an HTTP request. Still, in some real-world implementations, I discover relative links to IIIF manifests, which to me seem not optimal, because if it requires additional tracking of the website which embeds these manifests. I would like to encourage these implementers to change to absolute links, which are easier to handle in software. In this example, we have the situation that multiple images of a given canvas exist. There may be different reasons for such a scenario, like we have different photographs of the same thing from different points in time, or we have different types of photography, like breaking light images or multispectral images and so on. And I would like to recommend to put them on the same canvas so they can be nicely aligned, and software which works with this data knows that these images are meant to be together. I know there are implementations which introduce new canvases for the other images, but in this case the software can't make this relationship anymore, and yeah, that's a pity. Make IIIF developer friendly. From my perspective as a real world developer, harvesting of IIIF should be easy by accessing APIs, or IIIF collections are a very nice way to harvest entire collections, which I think should not be considered to be a crime. Give IIIF So the the computing power they need to provide users with fast answers. And another thing I would ask for is to integrate clear and defined license statements in IIIF data. It's still a thing I do not see very often. There are often placeholders or unclear expressions in IIIF implementations regarding the license of whatever object is the topic. Yeah, he's not often in IIIF contexts to see. Kururis don't change. Tim Berners-Lee, you probably know him from linked data conferences, but yeah, very true for IIIF too. I'm sure the reliability of IIIF resources will be crucial for long-term success of IIIF-based applications, because storing annotations, storing relationship between IIIF resources will rise in the next years, and so this will become much more critical than it was until today. Thank you.